I want a DNA test, she thought you accepted it.
Too emotional and too many lies.
Montez was my son.
Because we want people to have the truth.
I just felt like he didn't put enough effort.
I don't know whether what he's saying is true or not.
This is what you paying.
Tell the court, what happened 6 months ago?
She lied to me, she lied to my daughter.
What are you feeling? What are you thinking? What do you need? Whether the relationship was good or bad, you knew that families go through ups and downs.
They
Your
even
Honor,
got
that's
some-
a lie.
Ms. Thomas and her mother are here today to prove that Mr. Powell is indeed Ms. Thomas's father. Ms. Thomas says Ms. Powell has always denied being her father despite taking on some of the responsibilities of being her father. And she wants to clear up the confusion because she wants him to walk her down the aisle. Mr. Powell, on the other hand, says he's not sure he's Ms. Thomas's father because her mother was with a lot of different men when she got pregnant with her.
And all your life, you believe Mr. Powell was your biological father, but he just didn't come around?
So I was always told he's my biological father. I felt like he was. Of course he wasn't around. He could have been around more.
And how does it feel that he didn't take that opportunity?
I just felt like he didn't put enough effort.
Mr. Powell says the reason he never put the effort in is that he found out Ms. Thomas's mom was pregnant through a family member, and that family member told him, authoritatively, that she was another man's child.
And another family member was like, well, nah, I think it's yours. So I don't know who to believe. Then a close friend of mine got me back in touch with her, and she was showing. And I was like, who kid is that? And she was like, this your baby.
Oh, so she told you this is your baby?
Yeah.
So this entire time, you've had doubt?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Yes.
This means that Mr. Powell has always had doubts about being Ms. Thomas's father. Mrs. Shelton, Ms. Thomas's mother, doesn't totally agree with this version of events. Instead, she says all of this was completely avoidable.
Me and Cole always been friends, you know. If he had any doubt from the time that I told him that I was pregnant, even when I wasn't even showing, he could have said something then. And then when the baby was born, he came and saw the baby, everything. He even told me he wanted me to name her Nicole, after him. His name is Cole, her name is Nicole. I mean, he spent time with me and the baby.
But a man can do all of that when caught up in the euphoria of potentially having a child while not really believing that the child is his. We've seen many such cases in paternity court. Mrs. Shelton feels this is unfair to her because Mr. Powell never really said he wants a paternity test. Mr. Powell isn't on board with this version of events either.
The fact that she never heard you say, I don't think she's my daughter, I want a DNA test, she thought you accepted it.
Well, I remember telling her one time that I thought she did look like her ex when she was smaller. But that was like in probably 96, 97. Then I ended up going to the military in like 98. I get some child support papers saying that I owe child support.
Mrs. Shelton says she never actually put Mr. Powell on child support, and the government just did that automatically because she sought public assistance.
So I asked the JAG person, in the Navy, well, I want to do a DNA test if I'm finna pay child support. He was like, nah, there's no way you can. You must have missed all that. They saying, this is what you paying.
Excuse me.
When did that happen? I'm going to
Okay.
come to you, Miss Shelton. Just give me one moment. When was that? 1999.
Yes.
Your Honor, can I
So
say
Miss
something?
Thomas was like 4 or 5 then.
Yes.
If it turns out that Mr. Powell isn't actually Ms. Thomas's father, he would have paid thousands of dollars for a child that isn't his and would also be in thousands of dollars of debt. That could be soil destroying.
I was at a party this year. I was discussing with some of the folks that I know back in the day. I was telling them about the situation I'm going through because they knew Miss Shelton. And I was discussing with one of my guys. He was like, let me see the picture of her. So I showed him the picture of her, and I'm looking at him and looking at her, and I was like, dude, you ever mess with China before? And he was like, yeah, I have.
Really?
Excuse me,
And
Your
I'm
Honor.
looking at him and looking at the picture like they
Your
even
Honor,
got
that's
some.
a lie.
Wow, that's incredible. If true. Mrs. Shelton says it's a complete lie and Mr. Powell is just making somebody up for the court. To be fair to Mrs. Shelton, it really just sounds like a complete lie. Because how likely is it that he would randomly bump into Ms. Thomas's real father at a party? Come on, guys. That's like a 1 in 100 million chance event. Mrs. Shelton also says she wasn't sleeping with anyone else aside from Mr. Powell when she got pregnant with Ms. Thomas. Well, let's see what the DNA test results have to say about that.
Mr. Powell, you are not the father. That is not your daughter's biological father. 22 years. 22 years of being told one man is your father, and the entire time, he is not. Was there some other man? Was there this
There was
man
no
from the
other man.
party?
There was no other man.
Mr. Powell, do you know where this man is? from that party? Do you know where he is?
Yeah, I can get in touch.
Mr. Haggerty is in court today determined to get his child, Ms. Wandick, back. He claims she's distanced herself from him because her mother now claims, after 30 years, that he's not her father. Mr. Haggerty says this isn't possible, and that Ms. Wandick is obviously his child. Ms. Wandick, on the other hand, says she's stuck between her parents and doesn't know what to believe since her mother told her another man is her father. The good thing is Ms. Davis, Ms. Wandick's mother, is also in court today to clarify her claims.
I'll start with you, Mr. Haggerty. Why do you say Ms. Davis is a liar?
She lied to me, she lied to my daughter. When she first got pregnant, she said I was the dad. And after 29 years, I come to find out now that possibly that I'm not the father.
You've raised this beautiful young woman and you've thought of her as your daughter and nothing else.
For the whole 29 years, yes, Your Honor.
That's cold. That comment by Ms. Davis is incredible. Reducing 30 years of care, love, and affection to just being a playmate is an extraordinary thing to do, and Ms. Davis has no remorse for doing it.
And Ms. Wandick, you felt the same.
Yes, Your Honor.
This is the man you always knew to be daddy.
Yes, Your Honor.
He's not. He's not. He was just a playmate, Your Honor. I mean, but I know who the biological father is.
Excuse me, Your Honor. She's
Yeah.
saying that he was just a playmate, but how is that fair to this man and to me for her to be saying that he's just a playmate when from jump you led this man to believe that he was my father?
That's right. It's not fair, but Ms. Davis actually doesn't care at all. She looks like she's just here to have fun and break Mr. Haggerty's heart. This is despite the fact that Mr. Haggerty was always there for his daughter and treated her in the best way he could.
So you grew up believing Mr. Haggerty was your biological father.
Yes, Your
Can
Honor.
you talk to me about the relationship you had with Mr. Haggerty growing up?
Mr. Haggerty was a wonderful father to me. Like, I was in and out of the system, and he'll come pick me up from my foster care home, take me around to his side of the family, which is, they're awesome. He's just been an outstanding dad. He didn't treat me no different from my sister.
To shed more light on this issue, we are joined in court by Carolyn Doro, who's Ms. Davis's sister. She's standing with Mr. Haggerty and plans to give her testimony for him.
My sister called me. She said me and Craig just got through doing, and she said I'm pregnant. And she told me, our family, that Craig was Marzella's father.
Mr. Haggerty.
Mr. Haggerty.
She said it?
She said it.
She didn't name anybody else.
She didn't name no one else but Craig Haggerty. She looked just like him.
But we all know that facial resemblance means nothing in paternity court, right? There are so many cases where the plaintiffs are sure of a DNA outcome because of facial resemblance, and they end up being fantastically wrong. So no, we cannot access paternity through facial resemblance alone.
That Mr. Haggerty was not your biological father.
When I really found out things was I was at a sibling's house and this other man came up to me and he started crying and I'm like, whoa, why are you crying? Like, who are you? I don't know you. Why are you crying? Why are you looking at me just crying? And he was like, you don't know who I am? He was like, I'm your father. I'm like,
how old were you?
I was 19 years old, Your Honor. And I was
Really?
like, yes, Your Honor. Yes.
Mr. Haggerty says he has no idea about this other man, and he is just hearing about it now for the first time. Ms. Wandick says she didn't tell him because she distanced herself from him. In fact, the last time she saw him was 9 years ago. This is incredible. What does Ms. Davis have to say for herself?
How
never
does
saw my birth
Mr.
certificate.
Haggerty get into the equation?
Question, because I'm gonna explain it to you, Your Honor, because I wanted a baby by Mr. Haggerty so bad. So bad I had 4 miscarriages by him.
So you lie?
4 miscarriages. So I put Nicole on him. But I know who the father is.
Let me
29
see
years
that
of my
evidence.
life,
Let me
I've
have your
never
folder as
received a
well,
birth
please, ma'am.
certificate.
Thank you. So what we see.
This shows that Mr. Haggerty really believed that Ms. Wandick was his child, even though she didn't have his name on her birth certificate. He cared for her despite having no legal claim to her. In fact, before she went into the system, she was living with him. Mr. Haggerty has one of his other children, Vanessa Haggerty, in court today as well, and she also says she believes Ms. Wandick is her sister.
Of course I do. She looks like my dad. She looks more like my dad than I do. That's all I've ever known. Like when we were young, we dressed alike. She was with us for a while. So yes, I believe that's my sister, wholeheartedly.
Oh, so precious, y'all holding hands. I love that. And I could see throughout the testimony the tears coming down your eyes.
Oh, of course. It's emotional. You know what I mean? Like, who wants to go 30 years without knowing if they have a sister, a younger sister at that? I always wanted one. You know what I mean? So of course it's emotional.
The question now is this: why did Ms. Davis do all of this? If it turns out Ms. Wandick indeed is another man's child, the question is, why did Ms. Davis go on with the lie for 20 years? Ms. Wandick thinks she knows the answer.
So, Ms. Wandick, I want to understand, what do you believe was your mother's motivation for creating this type of paternity saga?
Money. Money. When this other man accumulated all this money, that's when she would say, that's who really your dad is. You need to get some money from him. So it was all about the money, because that's when she told me.
So when was this?
This was back in 2016, Your Honor.
That's a heavy accusation. It would be insane if that were truly the reason why Ms. Davis was doing all of this. Money? She was willing to destroy the relationships she'd built for over 20 years, just for a few more $1,000s per year? That's unusually cruel. However, Ms. Davis denies this, as anyone would expect her to. She says there's a different reason.
I felt guilty.
It's all right.
Because
It's all right.
it's too emotional and too many lies.
Yeah, you're the big liar. You're the one that's lying.
Yeah, well, if you say
29 years of
well,
lying.
if you say so, I
What do you
am. But
mean?
I'm here today
You
to
caused
get the
this
truth.
all on
Your
yourself.
Honor,
You can
that's
only be
it.
mad at
You know,
yourself.
so we can get the results and get the
So I
truth,
want
and she
everybody-
no longer be a factor in my life.
No.
And you think that
Miss Davis, don't say that.
That's incredible. Well, it's time to see the truth and deal with it. Is Ms. Davis lying, or is Ms. Wandick really another man's child?
Mr. Haggerty, you are not the father. Miss Wandick, are you okay, honey?
Something that could have been settled 29 years ago.
You can stay there with her.
It still looks like me. I don't care what it says.
Miss Wandick, I know I could not give you the level of closure you truly needed. You got one part of the truth.
Ms. Jasmine St. James says she's always been a daddy's girl, for at least the first 33 years of her life. She says just 6 months ago, after an argument, her father told her that she wasn't his daughter. Today, she's in court with her brother to find out whether her father is truly her biological dad. Mr. Esau stands by his statement and says he just could never find the right time to tell his daughter the truth about her paternity.
Miss St. James,
Yes, Your Honor.
tell the court what happened 6 months ago.
I wrote my dad a letter right before Christmas, a couple weeks before Christmas, just telling him how I felt about him not being in his grandchildren's lives and how he's not being the father that we need since we lost our mother at a young age. And that was his response, is the reason why I haven't been in your life is because the reason why he didn't answer any of my questions.
That is not true.
That was the very first time Miss St. James had ever heard of a paternity question relating to her.
That Miss St. James was not your biological daughter.
Correct. Yes, Your Honor.
What did her mother tell you?
She just basically told me she was pregnant.
This was not something you knew for certain?
No, not 100%. I mean, it wasn't 100%, but you know,
That's
the
why
doctors,
he shouldn't have
everybody
never
should have
said
been,
anything. That's why he shouldn't have did this to me. I've been
timelines,
through so much stress and anxiety
timelines
because
haven't
of
matched
what
up
this has happened.
based on the
You
doctor.
don't do that. I went to his house every summer.
Miss St. James says the last 6 months of her life have been hell because of her father. She says she's been throwing up every day, she can't eat, and is losing weight. And she's trying to balance all of this with raising an autistic son. She feels so bad that she thinks she might pass away from heartbreak, all because her father dropped the most shocking news on her through the phone. Horrific.
You felt like whether the relationship was good or bad, you knew that families go through ups and downs, but you believe you had your daddy and you knew who he was.
And my dad, in the letter that I wrote him, had nothing to do with my childhood. He kept texting me, I'm gonna write you and tell you about, I said, why you wanna tell me about my childhood? I'm grown now, what are you talking about my childhood? I'm asking you why you're not in our lives today.
Mr. Esau has an interesting excuse to give. He says he told Miss St. James that he definitely wasn't her biological father, and that he explained why to her. He says he didn't do it in a mean way, and that 2 more men could possibly be her father. Interestingly, Miss St. James' mother never actually wavered on Mr. Esau being the father of her children, and he also paid child support his whole life, so this discovery isn't coming from her. Instead, it's straight from Mr. Esau. He must have a very good reason.
When her mom found out she was pregnant, were you told?
She told me yes.
And so, take me back to that time.
Basically, she told me she was pregnant, and I'm like, okay. You know, you're 18, you're like, okay. Like, wow. You know, you don't really know how to really react, but I was like, okay, wow, she's pregnant. And it wasn't until the doctor told her how far along she was, and doing the math, it was, you know, before me, you know? So it wasn't like she was cheating on me, because we had just started. She was already pregnant.
Okay, but Mr. Esau continued to see Miss St. James's mother because they got married after Miss St. James was born and had another child. So the doubt was huge enough for Mr. Esau to drop this bomb on his daughter 33 years later, but not big enough to stop him from marrying her daughter? Incredible. Now Mr. Esau says his mom influenced his decision as well.
What's happening here?
You know, one of the things also talking to my mom, you know, and she explained the time frames. Okay, she sat down and talked to me and was like, okay, when did this happen? When did that happened? When did this happen?
And he probably told her whatever she needed to hear.
And what the doctor said.
All right, and your mother is here. I would like to
Yes.
hear from you, ma'am. Please stand. Step up to the podium and state your name for the court.
Helene Reese.
Ms. Reese, thank you for joining us today.
On the stand, Mr. Esau's mom, Helen Reese, says that Ms. St. James's mother and grandmother had told her about the pregnancy and told her when terminations are legal. She says that the time frames she was told assured her that her son was definitely not the father of Ms. St. James. Let's see what Mr. Kenneth Esau, Ms. St. James' brother, has to say about this.
Your entire life, were you ever told anything different, that your father was not your sister's biological father?
Through my whole life, I thought that Jasmine was my sister. We were the only ones that came from my mom and him, so that's all I've known, him being my father. So to get this news like this is just, it's just it's hurting as far as, the allegations put upon my mother.
Yeah.
Well, there's only one real way to find out what the truth is, and that's by checking the DNA results.
Mr. Esau, you are not the father.
Can I give her a hug?
That's better. I can accept that.
And I'm sorry I waited so long. I mean, I've always taken responsibility for that talking to her, of not telling her. That was her right to know. And she should have been told a long time ago, not when she's 33 years old. You'll never understand how hard that is.
It truly is why we do this, because we want people to have the truth.
Mr. Robinson says Travares, Ms. Grant's son, doesn't belong to him, and he knows who the father is. He claims she pushed the child on him just to get child support and wants to get over $1,000 in child support he's already paid. He also says that his driver's license has been suspended and his tax return was taken because he owed child support. Ms. Grant, on the other hand, believes that the only reason Mr. Robinson is denying his son is because he was summoned to pay over $3,000 in child support.
You say that's not true, Ms. Grant?
My son never went around them.
Yes, he did.
Dexter did claim my child, because I have proof here where he went to sign papers and everything.
Yeah, he did sign the paper, but he didn't sign the birth
was in the
certificate.
hospital.
Well, you said you have proof?
Yes. He had the opportunity.
What is this paperwork?
That is where he signed and say that is his child, and he would pay $60 a month for his child.
This is an affidavit, an admission of paternity, which is basically an acknowledgement of paternity.
Well, the question now is, why? If you don't believe a child is yours, you really shouldn't sign a document saying you'll pay $60 per month for child support. That's how you get your driving license suspended and your tax returns taken. Another thing about paternity issues like this is that they usually end up in weird fights like this one.
You all met and you started a sexual relationship.
Yes, ma'am.
And how long after that did you realize you were pregnant?
We started dating October the 7th, 1989. And
they were not never in a relationship.
Your Honor, yes, we are. And as a matter of fact, where was you in 1989 when we was together?
Well,
How did you know what was going on?
I'm with him now.
Dexter, I slept with you. I did not sleep with your wife. Could you please tell her?
It's been a couple of decades, and it looks like Mr. Robinson and Ms. Grant still have unfinished business to get through. Anyway, Ms. Grant is certain that Mr. Robinson is her child's father because they had intercourse in the back of his car, and afterward he told her she was pregnant. That's certainly an odd reason, but this is paternity court, and it's not the oddest thing we've heard.
It was different. I mean, yeah, prior to, I had a relationship with Eddie. I can't say it was a relationship. I slept with Eddie.
That doesn't mean he's the father.
If you having sex with somebody, how is that not meaning that he is the father?
Okay, when you having sex with two different men,
so wait,
with Eddie.
you having two
Let me
different
be clear. Let me be clear. So you had sex with Mr. Robinson in the backseat of this car?
Yes.
Okay then, Ms. Grant. If you insist that it wasn't during the window of conception, we'll have to take your word for it, right? Anyway, we know that Mr. Robinson slept with Ms. Grant. We know that he acknowledged the paternity of the child. What we don't know is why and how he became doubtful.
What I want to understand is, you went up and you signed the acknowledgement of paternity. When did you become doubtful?
2 years ago, when this other man approached him and told him that he was the father.
When they
So
got
Mr.
the paper,
Robinson.
they had to pay $13,000, Your Honor.
So Mr. Robinson, at some point after you signed this acknowledgement, someone came up to you and said, I'm
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Christian's father?
Yes, Your Honor.
Wow, that's insane. 20 years of support and all of that's gone in just a moment? There must be something else to this. This man must have given Mr. Robinson some hard-hitting evidence. That's the only way it worked.
This guy, Mr. Eddie, came and told me Montez was his son. But out of all this time, I really thought Montez was my son.
And then what happened after that?
Mr. Robinson came home and told me about it.
This man that they're claiming walked up to him and said, I'm really Mr. Christian's father. Do you know who this man is?
I do know him.
According to Ms. Grant, there's no chance that this man, Mr. Edison, is her son's father. But if there were no chance, what gave this man the audacity to claim Travares as his son? What evidence does he have?
We've heard testimony that says you approached Mr. Robinson at some point and said, I'm Mr. Christian's father.
Well,
did that happen?
No, that's a lie. He approached me. He came to me and he said, I heard that Martez was your son. I said, well, hey, man, hey, look, I didn't tell you to go up there and sign them papers, so that's on you. You know, I feel he is my son because of his mom approached me and said once.
So Mr. Edison says he had intercourse with Ms. Grant and that it was during the period that Travares was conceived. He also says that Ms. Grant once told him to go get his son out of the tree when Travares was stuck in it. Ms. Grant's reply to this is that where's Mr. Edison been all this while if he truly believes the boy is his son?
Age of 14, my child? I mean, apparently y'all don't know who he is, so where you been all this time?
Well,
if you claiming to be the father and say, I said at the age of 7 or 8 that he was your child, so why it took you that long to come in and respond to him, and now all of a sudden you saying that he's your child? Where is my support?
Well, hey, look,
I mean, seriously.
I mean,
So who's the bad person
well,
here?
you told me it wasn't mine.
And my point exactly.
So
I told you he wasn't yours.
Yeah, when you
I
said-
never told you.
Well, it's time to figure out who the bad person is and see whether Mr. Robinson has been paying child support for his son or another person's child all this while. The answer might shock you.
Mr. Eddie Ellis, you are not the father. Mr. Dexter Robinson, you are not the father.
Nobody else?
There has to be at least one more. And I know that's a long time to think back. I think you got some thinking to do. You have an amazing young man here. It's about finding out the answers for your child. He deserves that.
Well, Ms. Grant, there's someone else. Your son wasn't immaculately conceived, and you are not the Virgin Mary.
Mr. Robinson, Ms. Robinson, I need to inform you that there is no guarantee that you will be released from your obligation to pay those arrears. Because under the law, when you sign that acknowledgement of paternity voluntarily, you're responsible. Are you all right, Mr. Christian?
Oh, yes, ma'am, I'm fine. I'm a grown man now. I moved on with life. It hurt, like for Eddie not to be my father.
All right, folks, grab your popcorn and buckle up because this episode of Paternity Court is about to take us on a roller coaster ride of drama, deceit, and best friend betrayals. Today, we meet Jillian Damon, a woman desperately trying to save her relationship with her boyfriend, Elliot Osborne. But hold on tight, because her so-called best friend, who we'll call Tattletale Taylor, is about to drop some major bombs that will leave you gasping for air.
Ms. Damon, you claim you are certain that your boyfriend is the father of your 6-month-old daughter, Paisley. Recent allegations of cheating have caused a strain on your relationship. You're hoping that today's paternity results will help you save your family. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Osborne, you admit to being a father figure in Paisley's life, but say when the paternity results prove you are not her biological father.
Oh, the drama is already brewing. That was fast. Jillian reveals that she's pregnant and decides to break the news to Elliot. But instead of a joyful celebration, we witness a look of sheer panic on both of their faces. Could it be that they're hiding a deep secret? The suspense is suffocating.
I was waiting for you to say, and at that moment we were so happy.
No.
You had a look of fear.
There was no happiness. It wasn't your average, jump up, enjoy, oh, we're expecting. No, not at all.
You had a look of fear, Mr. Osborne?
Yeah, Your Honor, because the day before she found out she was pregnant, I received text messages while I was at work from her best friend.
Just when we thought things couldn't get any messier, Tattletale Taylor decides to stir the pot. She sends a text message to Elliot, exposing Jillian's alleged infidelity with not one, not two, but 3 other guys. Talk about a bombshell. The drama levels are off the charts, and the air reeks of betrayal. Someone call the girl Code Police.
So, Mr. Osborne, you received a text that said Jillian might be pregnant, and she said it's another guy's. Just thought I'd let you know. Also, she's been blank, guy 2, out in blank, and guy 3. But there are new people she's been blanking. So this is your best friend.
Ex-best friend.
But wait, there's more. Jillian fires back, accusing Tattletale Taylor of doing the same thing to her in the past. It's a war of words, folks, and these former besties are not holding back. Who needs reality TV when we have Paternity Court?
So why would your friend take it upon herself to text message your boyfriend just to let him know that there are potentially 3 other guys you're sleeping with?
She did to me what I did to her. So it's out of spite. It's all out of spite. A spiteful person does that.
Oh, so you did this to her once upon a time?
Once upon a time, something similar.
Now let's fast forward to the courtroom, where tensions are running high. Jillian finds herself in the hot seat, facing tough questions from the judge. Will she be able to defend herself against these explosive allegations? It's like a courtroom showdown straight out of a legal drama.
It's commendable what you did. Have you developed a relationship with Paisley? Were you there for the birth? Did you cut the cord? Did you sign the birth certificate?
Yes, I did cut the cord, and eventually I did sign the birth certificate.
Even with doubt?
Even with doubt, I signed it because after she was born, I pulled the nurse to the side and I asked her for a DNA test.
Hold on tight, folks. Miss Taylor takes the stand, ready to spill all the tea. She reveals shocking details about Jillian's alleged cheating escapades, leaving everyone in the courtroom gasping for breath. This is reality TV at its finest.
Well, yeah, that could have worked as well.
Yes.
There was no other guys. The Jillian did. I did not. No, there was no other guy.
We wanted to get to the bottom of this, so your best friend is here. Please escort Miss Taylor into the courtroom. Thank you for joining us, Miss Taylor. You were best friends with Miss Damon, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you were best friends. We also had offered into evidence from Mr. Osborne a text message where you seemed...
Now let's talk about the reason everyone showed up to the courtroom today. The kid's paternity. The judge drops a bombshell, revealing that the night Jillian allegedly cheated lines up perfectly with the conception window. Will Elliot be the father, or will Jillian's secrets come crashing down on her? The tension is insane, and everyone in the courtroom is on the edge of their seat.
Let me try to figure out the conception window. When was Paisley born?
January 26th.
All right. Was she a full-term baby?
No.
So she was born at?
12 days early.
So that's about 38 weeks.
Yes.
All right. Given that birth date and delivered at 38 weeks, the window of conception would be May 13th to May 19th.
All right, folks, it's time for the moment we've all been waiting for. The DNA results are in, and the tension in the courtroom is palpable. Will the truth finally be revealed, or will this case leave us with more questions than answers? Get ready, because we're about to find out.
Mr. Osborne, you are the father. I can see how much that meant to you, Mr. Osborne. That's your little girl. You relieved?
Yes, I'm happy. I love her. My little world's right there.
That's exactly the way it should be. And I'm happy that we could get clarity for Paisley and for you both in this relationship. And I will say this earnestly. I don't believe all those text messages were a lie.
Portia Hadnot claims that her best friend since 6th grade, Terry Matthews, betrayed her in the worst way possible. Portia had a fling with James Matthews, Terry's husband, and ended up getting pregnant. But here's where it gets even crazier. Terry also got pregnant by James around the same time and then married him. Talk about a tangled web of deceit.
Ms. Hadnot, you are here today because you say Mr. Matthews' wife is the reason he's denying paternity of your son. Now, you claim that Mrs. Matthews was once your best friend since 6th grade, but then you told her you were pregnant by Mr. Matthews and she immediately conceived a child with him and then married him.
Yes, Your Honor.
Portia is convinced that Terry deliberately got pregnant by James to steal him away from her. Oh, the drama. And to add fuel to the fire, James himself has doubts about being the father of Portia's child. He claims she has a reputation for sleeping around. Ouch. This case is like a soap opera on steroids.
And so she knew you were interested in him, or you guys had taken your friendship to the next level.
Yes, I feel that she just trifling because she knew from the front that we was together.
How long were you all together in that way?
Just that
How
one
long?
time.
Just that one time?
Yes.
Mr. Matthews, so you first had an intimate relationship with Miss Hadnot.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you started one with Ms. Matthews.
Now let's get into the nitty-gritty details. Portia admits that she slept with James, but insists it was just a one-time thing. She believed Terry was her ride-or-die bestie and would never betray her, but boy was she wrong. Terry knew about Portia's interest in James, and yet she still went ahead and got involved with him. Talk about a backstabbing friend.
How many days apart did you sleep with this other man?
2 days or 3 days is one of those two.
Don't even know.
So why today are you so convinced that he's the father?
I'm not convinced. I know for a fact who I slept with.
I'm trying to understand.
She's always been after money, Your Honor. It's been times where she, can you take me here? Can you take? It's always been about money, finance.
James, on the other hand, claims he had no idea about the messy love triangle. He thought Portia and Terry were just cousins living together. But surprise, surprise, they were actually best friends, living under the same roof and plotting to steal his heart. This is getting more complicated than a math equation.
What made you doubtful about that?
Well, if somebody's saying they having I'm supposed to be the father, you gonna have them witnesses that be at the birth. You calling me after somebody else, and then not her mama calling me, saying, oh, you have a baby boy. Why ain't she telling me, okay?
How am I supposed to call him and tell him I had a baby after surgery?
Well, she called me the day
After
before and told me
surgery.
what time, and then I called her earlier
So
that
Miss
day.
Hadnot, but Miss Hadnot, now you also didn't tell him that there was another man.
As the case unfolds, we learn that Portia slept with another man just a couple of days after her encounter with James. Oh boy, this is like a game of paternity roulette. No wonder James has doubts about being the father. But Portia is adamant that James is the daddy, and she's determined to break the cycle of absentee fathers in her own life.
Miss Matthews is almost fueling his doubt.
Never, not once, denied or said that Jamari was not James' son. I get on James when he get to getting to his feelings about his doubt. And I'll get to saying, James, let's go get Jamari. Let's do this and let's do that. I push that. I'm the one that goes to the door, picks up Jamari, and does that stuff.
He shouldn't have to do it.
I've
He should
never
be in bed
done.
and come tell me himself. It
type
shouldn't
of
have to go through Terry.
The tension in the courtroom is palpable as Portia and James go head to head. He accuses her of being a gold digger, always after his money, but Portia fires back, claiming that James never stepped up to the plate as a father. The gloves are off, and it's about to get real.
And explain this calendar to me.
Well, the 15th was the day I heard her tell the nurse that was her last menstrual cycle. The July 25th was the day that they actually slept together.
July 28th would be the day she slept with the other man that you admitted that you slept with.
Yes, I admit.
So the point is that the entire doubt that you were speaking about, Mr. Matthews.
In a shocking turn of events, Portia reveals that James signed the birth certificate voluntarily and even put himself on child support. But James denies ever making such a commitment. Who's telling the truth here? This case is becoming a tangled web of lies, betrayal, and unanswered questions.
He was sitting there watching him, looking at him sleep, all this. Then he told me himself, Portia, I'm gonna take care of my baby, and I'll call myself and put on myself on child support, which my mama dialed the child support number. James talks to them himself and put his own self on child support.
No.
But he sit there and act like he didn't do nothing, like I'm the one who did everything. He put his own self on child support. He signed the birth certificate by himself.
The tension in the courtroom reaches its peak as the judge announces that it's time for the DNA results. Will James be revealed as the father, or will Portia's doubts be confirmed? This is the moment we've all been waiting for, folks.
Now, Mr. Matthews, you got to explain this to me, because when you show up and you seemingly take responsibility.
Yes, ma'am.
So why is it when there are health issues, you're not present?
I have my doubts.
So the doubt-
That's me messing up. I'm saying, if you want to make me see the bad guy, okay, I didn't go.
I'm not making you seem like anything. I'm trying to understand the fact. What happened and what did not happen.
The results are almost in, and before we reveal them, let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer drama of this case. Best friends turned enemies, secret affairs, and a child caught in the middle. This is like a real-life soap opera playing out before our eyes.
Mr. Matthews, I was about to ask you all the same question. Can we have some type of order?
Yes, ma'am.
Because
I have one doubt.
listening.
He's
to
mad
whether
at the
or not-
fact that I don't want him and never have want him. He always texting me talking about, Portia, why you don't want me?
Okay,
what did I do to you?
She want me to do something.
No,
She
I don't
wanna
want you to do nothing because you never have. I've been having Jamari by myself.
Okay, enough suspense. Judge Lake has the DNA results in her hands, and it's time to reveal the truth. Is Mr. Matthews the father, or is Ms. Hadnot's search for her baby's father just getting started? Let's find out.
Mr. Matthews, you are the father.
Thank you. I told you. I hate you. I promise. I'm done. I don't want my son to be around you.
Hold on. Now, Ms. Hadnot, you just stood here and said that you want to break the cycle. You didn't have a
broke it.
father in your life,
Yes.
and you want to make sure your son has his father. And then as soon as the court reads the result, first thing out of your mouth is, I don't want you to have anything to do with him. I'll just keep being by myself.
So picture this. Mr. Pace, a devoted dad, finds himself in court, desperate to prove that he's the father of his adorable son, Prince. But hold on tight, because things are about to get messy. His girlfriend, Miss Fobbs, drops a bombshell. She slept with his best friend, Mr. Randolph. Can you believe it? The betrayal is off the charts.
Mr. Pace, you say you will be crushed today if DNA results reveal you are not the biological father of your son, Prince.
Yes, Your Honor.
You maintain that the defendant betrayed you by cheating with Prince's second possible father, your best friend. Now, Ms. Fobbs, you say you were caught between the man you're in love with and his best friend.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Pace is crushed, heartbroken, and completely blindsided. He thought he had it all, a loving relationship and a beautiful family, but now he's questioning everything. How could his best friend do this to him? How could the woman he loved betray him in such a devastating way? The emotions are running high, folks.
Mr. Pace, so what's at stake for you and your family today?
Well, what's at stake would be
I would say 3 relationships: the relationship that I have with Miss Fobbs, as well as the relationship that I have with Mr. Randolph, also the relationship that I have with Prince. So there is a lot on the line for me. That's my little man. We watch TV together, I'm feeding him cereal in the morning.
Miss Fobbs, on the other hand, is caught in the middle of this love triangle. She made a horrible mistake. Her words, not mine. And now she's desperately hoping that Mr. Pace is the father of Prince. Oh girl, what were you thinking? This is a whole new level of drama.
When did this love triangle, this cheating, begin and how?
I wouldn't necessarily call it a love triangle because the situation with me and Randolph only happened once. Upon me being in the house with Byron, the thing is, he works at night, so he's never really home with me, and I kind of took that as a feeling of neglect.
And let's not forget about Mr. Randolph, the so-called best friend turned other man. He's trying to explain himself, saying it was just one time and that they were both intoxicated. Yeah, right, as if that's an excuse for betraying your bro. Cue the eye rolls and the gasps from the audience.
So when you say you took this as neglect, was there anything else going on in the relationship other than he's just going to work?
Basically, what we were arguing about, it was past. It was just me feeling neglected at home.
I do work a lot. I promote clubs and parties, so I am out and I am around a lot of, I would say, women. And she kind of, I guess, takes that as me being unfaithful.
But wait, it gets even crazier. During a heated argument, Miss Fobbs blurts out that Mr. Randolph might be Prince's father. Talk about dropping a bombshell. The courtroom is in complete shock, and Mr. Pace's heart shatters into a million pieces. How could this happen? How could his best friend and the woman he loved betray him like this? It's a betrayal of epic proportions, folks.
Prince was 2.5 at the time, so it was very emotional for me, being that it's my best friend and this is my woman.
Understandably.
So when I found out initially, like I said, I was hurt. I felt betrayed by actually both parties at that point. Access the situation, not being upset, because I initially called Mr. Randolph to find out what was going on.
Now let's take a moment to appreciate Mr. Pace's strength. Instead of acting out of anger, he takes a breather and decides to confront his best friend face to face. Talk about maturity. We're giving this guy major props for keeping his cool in such a heated situation.
So Mr. Randolph, I just have to ask, how could you sleep with your best friend's girl?
Well, to answer that, Your Honor, I wasn't in the right state of mind. We both was intoxicated. You know, he was out promoting club, and she used to come home from the club intoxicated and, looking for him. He's not there. Me and her talk, and, one night the talk led to something else.
The tension is thick as Mr. Pace finally confronts Mr. Randolph. The emotions are running high, and you can cut the air with a knife. Can these two friends salvage their relationship? Can they find a way to move forward after such a massive betrayal? It's a make or break moment, folks.
Was it only one time?
Honestly, that I can recall, yes.
Well,
That's it, just one time.
One time is one time too many for me. I'm very confused at this point. It's really hard for me to be standing here and in front of you, and I'm kind of nervous as far as what I'm about to hear. I don't know, really want to move forward with a positive outlook.
I understand.
Meanwhile, Miss Fobbs is torn between her love for Mr. Pace and her mistake with Mr. Randolph. She's desperate to keep her family together, but the truth is hanging over their heads like a dark cloud. Can they find a way to rebuild trust and move forward? Or will this love triangle tear them apart forever? The suspense is killing us.
Both men now know, and the secret is basically out. Was it a secret you were holding, and during the argument you just had to let it out?
Yeah, at the moment, Your Honor, I was contemplating on how I was gonna get the information out because I do want my son to know who his father is. I don't want to hold that secret, and it was something that was weighing heavy on me.
The moment of truth has arrived, and the judge is about to reveal the results. The tension in the courtroom is palpable, and everyone is on the edge of their seats. Will Mr. Pace be the father? Will Mr. Randolph be the father? Or is there another twist in this already twisted tale? Hold on to your seats, folks, because it's about to get real.
Mr. Pace, you are not his father. Mr. Randolph, you are not.
I apologize.
Miss Fobbs?
I don't know what to say.
Do you know who Prince's father is?
No.
That's me. I'm Prince's father. There's somebody that may be his dad, but I'm his father.
And And then the bombshell drops. The judge reveals the results for Mr. Pace, and it's not the news he was hoping for. The disappointment on his face is heart-wrenching, and the audience gasps in disbelief. But wait, there's more! The judge moves on to Mr. Randolph, and the suspense is killing us. Will he be the father? Will this love triangle finally come full circle? Can this shattered family find a way to heal? It's time for the big reveal, folks.
Mr. Pace, I commend you, given the news you've gotten today, for still standing up for that beautiful little boy. And it shows what kind of man you are.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Randolph, you made a mistake as it relates to your best friend's girl, a huge mistake.
Big mistake.
And I'm hoping you've learned that life lesson.
I learned, Your Honor.
And it seems as if you two do have a friendship.
We've got a jaw-dropping case for you, so get ready for some serious drama. Let's jump right into it. Our plaintiff, Miss Arbogast, is here to confront her ex-boyfriend, Mr. Vess, for denying their 2-year-old daughter, Kinsley, all because he started dating her former friend. Can you believe it? Talk about a double betrayal.
Ms. Arbogast, you are in court today claiming the defendant started denying your 2-year-old daughter, Kinsley, once he got into a relationship with your former friend.
Yes,
You
Your Honor.
claim the defendant has ignored the needs of your children, so you are suing for the maximum amount of $5,000 for child care expenses. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And here comes the defendant, Mr. Vess, who claims that Miss Arbogast's promiscuous behavior is the reason he doubts being Kinsley's father. Oh, the drama is already off the charts.
You haven't been helping at all, Mr. Vess?
No, because how can I take care of somebody's daughter that may or may not be mine?
Okay, well, just because you don't want to take care of our daughter, we still have a 3-year-old son that you haven't helped for either.
So you have another baby too?
Yes.
And there's no question as to the paternity of that child?
No, Your Honor.
But do you help financially with that child?
I have in the past, but recently, no, I have not.
The tension is palpable in the courtroom as Judge Lake gets ready to hear this explosive case. Miss Arbogast is seeking $5,000 in childcare expenses from Mr. Vess. Let the battle begin. Miss Arbogast wastes no time in telling the judge that Mr. Vess hasn't helped financially at all. She even drops the bombshell that he has only contributed $100 over 2 years. That's like $1 a month, folks.
So if you don't have doubts about the older child, why are you not at least providing for that child?
I have been providing for that child, but
When?
recently I have been having bills and everything else that,
How much money do you say you've contributed to Kinsley?
Kinsley, probably $100.
Okay, so she's right.
No,
Yeah.
he's claimed $100 for Cameron and Kinsley.
Oh, Mr. Vess, what do you have to say for yourself? He claims he can't financially support Kinsley because he doubts her paternity. But wait, there's more. He hasn't even been supporting their 3-year-old son either. What a shocker.
How many times have you witnessed Mr. Vess financially support his children?
One time since I've been in their lives for the last 7 months, and that was $20 for pull-ups and diapers.
So you've developed a bond with the children.
Yes, I have.
And Kinsley's 2?
Yes.
That's about the time they start saying dad, dad?
Yes, Your Honor.
So
she knows no other man as dad besides him because he has refused to claim her.
Hold on to your seats, folks, because here comes Miss Arbogast's new boyfriend, Mr. Fritz. He's been stepping up as a father figure to both Kinsley and their son. Talk about a plot twist. Mr. Vess must be feeling the heat.
Then he told me I couldn't be friends with somebody I had been friends with for 9 years. He told me if you to go have sex with him, that's the only way to break your emotional connection. And I have witnesses, plenty of witnesses, who can attest to him saying this and have heard him say it.
wait a minute. You say Mr. Vess told you?
Yes.
Mr. Fritz confirms that he's been taking care of the children while Mr. Vess has been absent. He even mentions playing football with them. Looks like Mr. Vess is getting replaced in more ways than one.
The only way to break the connection you had with this friend, but
Told
he
him to
says
come
you
pick
need
me
to go
up.
have sex with him.
Yeah, to break the emotional and physical bond of friendship that I had with this man. But then he decided, but the whole pregnancy.
Who gave you this advice, Mr. Vess? Where'd you come up with this?
No, I never said that. That never came out of my mouth.
Oh, yes, it did.
Judge Lake is not holding back. She wants to know why Mr. Vess isn't providing for Kinsley, especially when he doesn't have any doubts about their older child. Mr. Vess claims financial difficulties. But come on, $100 in 2 years. That's not even enough for a pack of diapers.
You say she's making this up?
Yeah, I do. We were arguing about something, I don't know exactly what. I got mad, and I told her that she should go and, be with somebody else if she wanted to be. I guess she took me serious
When did you find out about him?
after we broke up.
We knew that same night. I was at the lake. He was texting me the whole time, baby, when are you coming home? What time are you gonna be here?
when I get done having sex with the person you told me to go have sex with.
Miss Arbogast is not backing down. She calls out Mr. Vess for not being present in their son's life and accuses him of being jealous because he got replaced as a boyfriend and a father. Oh, the drama just keeps escalating.
So you signed the birth certificate, Mr. Vess?
Yes, Your Honor, because I thought it was mine. I thought she was mine.
I wanted him to also be a father to our son. When our 3-year-old son looked at him and said, "Who are you?" my heart shattered. Okay, that hurts. That's our 3-year-old. But yet he can be a father to her kids
I'd
and
be a
their
father
new
to my
baby.
son if I actually had a chance to see him. If you didn't
You
have
would
a
see
damn...
him if you were a constant role in his life. I'm not gonna just let you take our son.
The moment we've all been waiting for. Judge Lake is about to reveal the results of the paternity test for Kinsley. Will Mr. Vess finally step up and claim his daughter, or will the drama continue?
I never, ever have told him that Kinsley is not his. I have been begging for a paternity test. I even asked him to go and buy one of those $35 kits off the shelf DNA paternity tests that you do at home and then you send it to a lab. Oh, I don't have the money for that.
Okay, but if you're the one begging for it, why didn't you go
Because
out and
you're
get it
the
yourself?
you're the one who denies her. So
Okay,
you
but
should pay for it.
I have been asking.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I've been asking for a while.
The tension in the courtroom is at an all-time high. Both Miss Arbogast and Mr. Vess are anxiously waiting for the truth to be revealed. This is the moment of truth, people. Folks, the results are in, and Judge Lake is about to drop a bombshell. You won't believe these results. Let's find out.
Mr. Vess, you are the father.
I see.
This situation's got to change. You guys are gonna have to figure out how to end this war because Kinsley's losing. Ms. Arbogast,
Yes,
for
Your
2
Honor.
years, you've taken care of this child by yourself.
Yes, Your
You
Honor.
presented expenses for $5,000 even, and they are all expenses that you need to raise a child.
Mr. Jennings raised his daughter for 23 years from diapers to adulthood and never for once doubted that he was her real father. However, today his ex-wife, Ms. Lynn, says that Taylor and Mr. Jennings deserve to know the truth. And you guessed it. The truth is that Mr. Jennings isn't Taylor's dad. Mr. Jennings says this is a lie and believes Ms. Lynn is just saying this because she's angry and spiteful.
Are you spiteful, Ms. Lynn?
No, first and foremost, if I was spiteful, I wouldn't be standing here right now because my daughter asked me to be here. And
So
as far as
why?
her being
Why
13,
n-
I
why
didn't
now?
tell her. His wife told her.
What happened?
She come to me and asked me if he was her dad because she said her stepmother told her that he was not.
Did your stepmother tell you that, Taylor?
I don't think so.
So that's not true.
What I remember is they were arguing.
Mr. Jennings says he's always heard the rumors that he isn't Taylor's dad, but he's never paid any attention to it because he knows that he's her father. And now, it turns out the reason Taylor was even conceived was as a way for Ms. Lynn to get married in Georgia without her parents' permission.
All right, I was very young. My parents did not want us together at all. It was strictly forbidden. I ran away from home to be with him. And the only way we could be together and get married without my parents' signature was I had to be pregnant by Georgia law.
So you all, as teenagers, concocted a scheme to be able to get married?
In order for us to get married.
Oh, so it's all coming together now. So Ms. Lynn tried to get pregnant on purpose so that she could marry Mr. Jennings. But if this is true, and Ms. Lynn loved Mr. Jennings enough to do that, why wouldn't Taylor be his child?
Question, he's your daughter's father.
He wasn't the only one I was sleeping with in order for me to get pregnant, to be with him. And he knew this then.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You all developed a scheme as teenagers to get pregnant so that you can get married, but you slept with more than one guy?
Yes,
so
I
to
did.
make sure you got pregnant?
Yes, I did.
Paternity court gets a lot of insane truths, but this one is in a class of its own. Not only did Ms. Lynn sleep around just to get pregnant to marry Mr. Jennings, but she says she also told Mr. Jennings about it, and he agreed. This is insane. Thankfully, Mr. Jennings makes this less insane than it is by saying he knows nothing about this. Hopefully, he isn't just lying. To show us the true picture of things, he lights up the board and tells us about this whole get pregnant to marry thing.
We got together. Her parents prohibited us being together, so we leave and we go out of state.
So you moved to Alabama?
Back to where I was when I was in kindergarten. The law don't come up there. They know better than come on top of the mountain up there, so there was no chance of getting
Oh, you
caught.
went up on top of the mountain where the law don't come.
Yeah, the law would not come up there. They've been shot at so many times up there.
That's the vital thing to remember here. Mr. Jennings and Ms. Lynn were teenagers at this time, and they'd skipped town, gone up a mountain where the law gets shot at, and were scheming to get married. If they hadn't gotten divorced and ended up in paternity court, it might just be the craziest love story ever.
To be together.
Yeah, sometime in June, we came back down to Georgia. June the 21st, she was pregnant. We got everything, went to Carrollton Courthouse, got married. February 14th, Taylor was born.
Did you discover she was pregnant in Georgia, or did you discover she was pregnant on the mountain?
I think we was back in Georgia when we found out.
Which do you say, Ms. Lynn?
We were in Georgia when I found out I was pregnant.
You were in Georgia when you found out you were pregnant.
Incredible. The question now is, how did all the other men get into this? Could Mr. Jennings not get Ms. Lynn pregnant? Why did they have to involve other men? Were other men even really involved?
Did he know you were messing around?
Yes, he did. Because
Mr.
my
Jennings,
ex
please
before
step back to
him
the podium.
is one of the possibilities to be her father. He knows this because they hate each other with a passion.
Did the ex know you were trying to get pregnant so you could marry Mr. Jennings?
He knew I was trying to get pregnant. He never asked for any of the other details. We were in Alabama between February and mid-March.
One of the possibilities? So there is more than one? Of course, this is a proper teenage story, because only a teenager would know that someone wants to get pregnant and still sleep with them without a condom and not ask why.
If I ain't the father, then the other two, they ain't neither. It's gonna be somebody else. I mean,
because
that's
your
simple.
testimony is that during the time Taylor was conceived, you know you were with Ms. Lynn.
Yes.
And you know that you were not in Georgia, you were in Alabama.
In Alabama.
That is your belief. But Ms. Lynn, you testify that these dates are wrong.
Right, we were in Georgia when I conceived her, not Alabama.
Wow. They did all of this for a marriage that lasted for only 6 years. Ms. Lynn insists that Mr. Jennings was always aware that there was a possibility that he wasn't Taylor's father. She says that when Taylor was just 2 months old, one of the potential fathers sat down with them and discussed getting a DNA test done. If this is true, then Mr. Jennings is definitely lying, because that's not the sort of meeting you can forget. But Mr. Jennings still insists that he had no idea.
If I'd have known she'd been sleeping with anybody else, I might not even have known Taylor, because ain't no way that she's gonna sleep with somebody else and get pregnant to marry me.
And so when you heard that conversation, what were your thoughts? I mean, at that point, this would have been the first time you heard that there was a question as to whether or not you were Taylor's biological father.
That's when everything goes downhill.
Well, the other potential father told Ms. Lynn and Mr. Jennings that he didn't care whether Taylor was his child or not. Mr. Jennings says that point was when their marriage actually ended, but since he has another child with Ms. Lynn, I'd probably guess that's either a lie or a clear exaggeration. The only remaining question is this: why now? After all these years, why is Ms. Lynn taking this question so seriously now?
Oh no, she's his or God's.
And so why did it take 26 years to get this answer for Taylor?
That I can't answer. I don't know.
Because your testimony is that you've been open to get a DNA test from the very beginning because you knew there was more than one possibility.
Yes, ma'am.
Is Mr. Jennings even a possibility?
Yes.
Okay. And Taylor, this has always been daddy to you.
So we are done with the testimonies. Now it's time to face the truth. Remember, women lie, but the DNA test results never ever lie.
Jennings, you are not the father.
Taylor, just remember this, baby. It takes more than having a baby to be a parent. He's always been your daddy. He's always gonna be your daddy.
Do something that could ruin a life, you know? And it might be like, yeah, I'm your kid, but I'm not his kid now. So it's like it doesn't affect just you.
Richard believes that he's the biological father of 37-year-old Christine. He says he once denied paternity of her, but it's been 37 years and he now wants to right his wrongs. Mr. Miles hasn't seen his daughter in 21 years, and now she's in court to prove that she's not the biological daughter of Mr. Miles. And how does she know that? Simple, her mother told her.
Don't believe Mr. Miles is your biological father?
I do not.
Explain.
I don't believe you're my father. My mom says you are not my father. You've been absent for 37 years. Why? Why now?
Your mom said that I was your father. Why she changed her story, I have no idea. But that's not the truth. And why now? I had the opportunity.
Of course, the next question is, why did it take 21 whole years to do that? If Mr. Miles really loved his daughter, he would have found her at some point in the last 21 years. But his excuse is that he was young and stupid when he met Christine's mom and really didn't know how to handle the responsibility of being a father. He says that's why he denied her in the first instance. In court, Mr. Miles was named the legal father and made responsible for Christine's child support. This came as a surprise to him because he didn't even know Christine's mother was pregnant.
You never were told she was pregnant. You were never told that I'm about to have the baby. You were never told the baby's born.
No, ma'am, not that I can remember.
How long were you in a relationship with her mother?
I was about 2 months is about how long we were together. I was living with her because I mean, like I said, I was 17 years old. I was couch surfing. I didn't really have any place to live. You know, when we got together, I moved in with her. And that's, you know, we do what we do in a relationship.
That's the problem right there. Mr. Miles found out that Christine's mom was sleeping with at least 2 other men that he knew of. These men were his friends, and they told him that they were sleeping with her. Unsurprisingly, Christine doesn't know this at all. And why would she? What mother would tell her child she was sleeping around while dating her supposed father?
So, Miss Turner, did your mother ever tell you anything about the relationship with Mr. Miles?
No, Your Honor, not until recently when I had asked her about Richard. And then she just kept on saying, he's not your father. I don't know why he's doing this now after 37 years.
So who did you grow up believing was your biological father?
I didn't. Not until I was 16. I didn't meet Richard until I was 16.
That's incredible. Childhood for Christine was extremely difficult, and things were even harder for her because she didn't have a father to hold her hand.
I was really bad as a student. I got in a lot of trouble. I went to foster care for 4 years. I went through lots of therapy to forget all this. And I'm back today.
But you're strong.
I'm strong.
And you're not alone, because we're here with you.
Thank you.
And so this was very difficult for you.
Christine says it doesn't take 17 years to find out if someone is truly their child or not. She says he could have done the DNA test at any point in the last 37 years, and yet he didn't do it. It's hard to disagree with that logic.
In 1992, we filed our taxes. Taxes came back, and there's a letter. You owe like $28,000 in back child support. And that just shocked me. Like I said, I just didn't have a clue that was even there.
And you didn't try to find out then?
I did.
What did you do to try to find her, Mr. Miles?
Back then, there was no internet, no cell phones. All you had was people that you knew and telephone line.
As far as excuses go, that's not the worst we've heard on paternity court. Anyway, Mr. Miles got around to paying the child support. However, the story of where the money went isn't as straightforward as you think.
My daughter apparently went to the mail and got the mail and said, Grandma, your name is on this. My mom opened it and it was a stack of child support checks. And I said, where'd you get that from? You never raised any of your children. And I said, that should not be going to you. And I didn't talk to her for a year after.
I know that's hurtful to recall. So that was the point where you realized that Mr. Miles, well, you didn't even know who it was. You just knew they were child support checks.
So Christine's mom took child support checks from Mr. Miles while claiming he isn't the father of Christine, and also while not raising Christine because she was in the foster care system. How horrible is that?
I arrive in this place. This man takes me. I spend time with him and his wife. He says he's my father. They drop me back off at home, and I never hear from him again.
That's right.
I didn't hear anything.
So why did you just disappear?
I didn't.
You can't try harder? If that was my daughter, I would have tried.
I couldn't take another trip up there. I couldn't afford it. I had a family and bills and
If
rent
I was paying
and all
child
this.
support and I didn't know for sure.
That seems to be Christine's big issue here. And who can blame her? She's been living in all this uncertainty for all her life. And now her supposed father waltzes back into her life, claiming he's her dad. While he wasn't present for the last 37 years, most people would be justifiably angry. And that's why we need the DNA test to show us what the truth is.
Miles, you are not the father. I'm very sorry.
We've had a connection ever since the day that I met her mom, because she was born and her mama said I was the father. That's why I went and looked. I'm sorry, Christine.
It's fine.
I hope you find your father.
Mr. Brown says he's always known that he was the biological father of Jira Lever. He says he's protected her, loved her, and taken care of her. And now Ms. Lever says he isn't her father. The first question we need to ask is why Mr. Brown is so sure that he is Jira's dad.
Your Honor, I know that I'm Jira's father. I mean, from the very beginning. That's my heart. She's attached to my hip. I've been taking care of her since day one. Fed her, bathed her, clothed her, taken her to her doctor's appointments. I mean, when Mom couldn't be there, I was there. And although she cheated, I know for a fact that Jira is my daughter. She looks like all of my children.
Touching monologue, Mr. Brown. But all of that isn't even close to evidence that Mr. Brown here is Jira's dad. People take care of and love children that don't belong to them all the time. That's one of the reasons why paternity court exists in the first place. Now let's hear why Ms. Liver says that Mr. Brown isn't the father of her child.
During the time that she was conceived, he wasn't really even around, and I had been with my ex. I just know.
So did you allow him to believe he was her biological father?
No. I always told Mr. Brown that he was not her father.
Did she always tell you that, Mr. Brown?
Not in the beginning, Your Honor.
That's not
What
true.
did she say in the beginning?
In the beginning, there was really no conversation.
Mr. Brown says he never took this possibility seriously, even after some of his friends told him he might not be Jira's father. Ms. Lever says he was away, but Mr. Brown says he does environment work and was maybe gone 3 or 4 weeks at a time. Importantly, he says that during the time he was home, he was almost inseparable from Ms. Lever. However, it kind of looks like Mr. Brown is massively missing the point here.
See how she had time or the opportunity to be with anyone else.
So you all had a real relationship?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, we did have a relationship, but our relationship has been pretty much rocky throughout the course of the 8 years.
It has.
Yes, ma'am.
And you assert that during one time in that 8 years, you slept with another man.
That's cold. The rest of the story is even crazier. Miss Lever says she was dealing with a sick family member, and her ex was going through the same thing too. So during that period, they rekindled their affair and became close. And then, were intimate, not at home, but in the hospital. Strangely, Mr. Brown continues to insist that he was at home.
In July, I was at home. Miss Lever and I also were intimate July 4th in our home by the back door.
Oh my God.
No, let me explain. We were outside, it's 4th of July. My children, our children, went down the street where my niece lives to pop fireworks with my nieces and nephews. Miss Lever and I were sitting out on the back watching them.
That's quite the explanation, Mr. Brown. But that only means that Mr. Brown could potentially be Jira's father. It doesn't mean he is actually Jira's father.
But Ms. Lever says she was having sex with her ex inside the hospital.
In July?
When I got
Yes.
I conceived, yes.
We
Miss
had
Lever, I
intercourse
just
on
want
the
to
court.
ask you, how do you have sex in a busy hospital?
I mean, it occurred. I mean, during that time, we were both dealing with a situation that was very detrimental. And during that time, we basically bonded.
Anyway, Mr. Brown is still insisting that he is Jorah's father, and Ms. Lever is simply not having it. It's clear she's tired of the charade and wants this over with as quickly as possible. And who can blame her?
He is not her father, and I've told him that from day one. This has been a mess. And I told Mr. Brown that he was not her father because, like, this is my ex, you know? And when I end up getting pregnant, I felt like it was my right to tell him so that he can move forward.
So you felt like you were just trying to be honest.
It also turns out that Ms. Lever never put Mr. Brown's last name on Jira's birth certificate. Mr. Brown says this is a lie, and then Ms. Lever pulls out the actual birth certificate to show him she's telling nothing but the truth.
This is a mess, but he is not her father, and I told him that from day one. This has been a mess, and I told Mr. Brown that he was not her father because, like, this is my ex, you know? And when I end up getting pregnant, I felt like it was my right to tell him so that he can move forward.
Well, if he does nothing for his child, why does Ms. Lever have another child for him after Jira? The child in question is Genesis, and we will also be checking if she's Mr. Brown's daughter. Interestingly, Mr. Brown says he doesn't think Genesis belongs to him. So he thinks Jira, who Ms. Lever says isn't his child, belongs to him, while Genesis, who Ms. Lever says is his child, belongs to another person.
So wait a minute, Mr. Brown, do you believe you are Genesis'
Your-
biological father?
No, I do not.
Oh, you do not
I
believe?
do not, Your Honor. Around the time that Genesis was conceived, Your Honor, Miss Lever was involved with another individual that I saw with my eyes personally.
Were you involved with another man?
Me and Mr. Brown we were on a break.
Our man, Mr. Brown, says that he isn't on Genesis's birth certificate, and Ms. Lever says he isn't there because he provides nothing for her. Well, that may be true, but how did she know that at the point of birth?
So wait a minute, Miss Lever, you did give Genesis his last name.
Yes, ma'am. As I believe that he is her father, but it is a possible doubt. I was with someone else during the time.
Someone's.
No, boy, bye, you full of. So why you want to be with me then?
Because I love you.
Boy, you don't
I
love
can't
me.
stop
You
loving
want to live with me because he ain't got nowhere to go.
Listen. So you all are still living together?
Because he won't leave.
Ms. Lever is clear she doesn't want to be with Mr. Brown, but Mr. Brown is also clear that he won't leave the house no matter what. He agrees that he doesn't work, which is a very embarrassing thing for a full-grown man to admit in court, and then says Ms. Lever doesn't work either. So how do they survive? Well, both of them and their kids survive solely off state assistance, and Ms. Lever admits this is true too.
At the end of the day,
No.
you are the man and
At
you
the
living in
end
my
of the
house
day-
and you need to work or leave.
At the end of
You
the
don't
day, Your
work.
Honor.
You don't provide nothing.
Your Honor.
I'm sorry, but I'm just tired of this. He needs to leave. I am drove crazy. I just want him to leave. And if he want to be a daddy to them kids, he can be a daddy to them kids outside of the house.
And that is not true
The
either.
house is tainted.
That ain't true either.
It's
You know why I
tainted.
can't be a father outside the house?
What a strange case. And you somehow get the feeling that the best outcome for Jira and Genesis is for them to find out that both of them aren't their actual parents. But that's impossible. So we have to look at what the actual DNA results say.
In the case of Brown versus Lever, when it comes to 2-year-old Genesis Brown Lever, it has been determined by this court. Mr. Brown, you are the father. That's your little girl.
Okay, so we've got that cleared up. Mr. Brown might not like it, but Genesis is his daughter. Let's see about the next child, Jira. Miss Lever says Mr. Brown isn't the father, while Mr. Brown says he is. Let's see who's correct.
Mr. Brown, you are not the father. This is overwhelming. Ms. Lever, what is it you're feeling in this moment?
My daughter has a bond with him. She loves him. They love him.